Hello everyone, welcome to another banner review. This time it's going to be about the Wolfskin and the Kitsune. There's no promise, okay, but I might also do the GHB Tempest Trial tier list update today. We'll see. It's kind of already 11 PM, so yeah, we'll see. As per usual, I'll go from worst to best. I feel like it's the best way to go about it. So, alright, let's get started. First off is Viloria. I already know what someone will say. Selkie is worse! Selkie is actually not that bad. But, she does have her own limitations. Still, this is Viloria. Personally, I feel like she's the character that's the most likely to get demoted. Kaden is the most broken support unit of this entire game right now. Keaton has a broken ass weapon that is so absurdly broken. It makes Reinhardt, the sword one, look like honestly a little shit on the fucking road by comparison. There's no comparison to be made. And then you have Viloria. Now, here's the reason why I consider Viloria to be in a really kind of rough spot. Her weapon. Now, this is the problem with Beast Unit, or the good part, depending on what it is. Everything is dependent on the weapon. You can have the best stat line in your goddamn life. If your weapon is shit, you're fucked. Why? Because you can't change it. You are stuck with what you have. If your weapon is super awkward, well, you're going to have a super awkward character, no matter how you go about it. And that can actually work against you. Pane is a good example, Nisala is a good example, because they're both... they both have a okay pref, but then they have like very strong competition like Shigure and Finn, who can do more or less the same thing as them, except they have stuff like Berkut's Lance, slaying weapons, Armonic Lance, Reprisal Lance. They have so many ways to go about it. And Veronica is a good example of that. Granted, she's colorless, so the one comparison you can make is hardly a comparison at all. She just wipes the floor with the comparison here. But her weapon, on the other hand, is... major yikes. Also, I feel like Gold Beast would be a bit too strong for them to actually give it that 5-star immediately. Word Beast is much more likely as a result. And Gold Beast is Kaden. So that's like the only other one I can see getting demoted. But that's more because I have no faith in IS and I feel like they're absolute dumbasses. And if I'm more like in the camp of if Viloria doesn't demote, we don't get a demote, period. And that's kind of weird for me to say considering Viloria is literally a better Ira stat-wise. And Ira is literally what most of the really, really good shit has been based on. Owain, Legendary Marth, Ira herself, Nyla, and now Viloria, and also to some extent Pane, except Pane is a cavalry unit, so she has less BST, which is subtracted from the two most important stat, which, woo, that's a yikes for me, dog. But other than that, like, all of the units I just mentioned, they're basically all Iras in disguise. They just don't have Regnal Astra. And yeah, like even the way Owain is used is the same way as Ira is used. The problem with Viloria though is they didn't actually account for her stat line versus her weapon. You see, Owain has a cooldown -1 weapon that gives him 2 charges when he gets hit. So you can use him the very same way as Ira. As long as you have someone next to you, you'll do even better than Ira. But that's inconsistent is the problem. Nyla is fucking broken. She just is literally a nameless blade Ira, but lucked to blue with a condition, so it's more or less balanced. But on top of that also has Muspel Fire Posey on top of it, which is fucking broken. Because the only problem she has is her attack can be a bit shaky. Except, her attack can go up by 6 just by having people around her. Which is kind of broken overall. And Legendary Marth has a really broken weapon, a pretty good B skill, and then a special that combos into the weapon really strongly. And then you have Viloria, who basically has the least energetic kit I've ever seen, and it's very difficult to work with. Why do I say this? Well, speed plus 3, that's kind of nice. I wouldn't say it's bad, though, frankly, if that's kind of what the competition is, do realize a Slaying Edge Ira will basically have the same stat, but 5 more health, so it's a give and take thing. Now, the problem I have with the weapon itself is that it does basically nothing. It's a glorified speed plus 3 pref, because what it does is ouch pouch for you, and ouch pouch for whatever unit she's supported with. Now, this is fantastic for a bonus unit, and she is really good in Arena, considering now, which, by the way, I should have mentioned this, but she has 168 BST. This is not trainee BST, but this is not Gen 3 BST. No, this is more so Gen 2.5, I guess, BST. Because only infantry unit will be affected by this. This is why infantry units can be boosted up to 10 times for anyone that has been released before this banner, when it comes down to infantry units. And that's why those can only be boosted 5 times. I do have a problem with this, however, because Dragon Flowers do not boost your arena score, which honestly, if you're going to go that way, might as well make it boost your arena score. That's just dumb otherwise. But, I mean, if you're not going to do that, it's still at least some stats. I know my gem key is now pretty happy with his 165 BST. That's without merges. It's dumb. Well, 164. I'm still missing the last Dragon Flower. But yeah, so infantry unit, expect them to have 167, 168 BST at all time. That's just the way it's gonna be now. Armored unit, cavalry, and flyers will stay the same. I guess what they wanted to do is basically make so infantry as an extra edge, because frankly, flyers are just better infantry. They're infantry with better movement. And that just makes sense to actually make so that infantry unit are closer to armored unit. Another thing worth mentioning is the fact that since she has 167 or higher BST, the second you merge her, that's 170 BST. This is worth mentioning because once this banner is over, if she does get demoted, if IS is indeed generous enough to demote her, don't expect it, don't expect any demote. Do not expect any demote. This is like a 20% chance. Though I feel like if they kind of want to mend their way a bit, that would just be like the best way to go about it. Close Death is ancient at this point, after all, so it doesn't matter. Still, the point I'm trying to make here is if she gets demoted, she scored the same as Sheena the second she's merged. Once. Because when it comes down to merges, if you get more, the first merge will get rid of the Bane or give you more stats because you're neutral. And yeah, the fact that you get extra stat here, the B is added to your BST. So if you have a Bane that's giving you 3-point loss on Viloria, your 168 BST suddenly just rock up to 171. The merge stat themselves, like the 1 attack, 1 speed in our case, won't increase it at all. But the fact that you get rid of the Bane will. So you're going to hit 171 BST as a result. This is great if she gets demoted, because that means we are going to possibly get more infantry in the pool. Which, again, is important because, well, if we get more infantry in the pool that actually scores well in Arena, this gives you more of an incentive to build something else than Sheena and Gwen for Arena, which is great. Now, Going back to the weapon. The weapon is pretty good when it comes down to arena cheerleading, and this is the whole reason why I went on that tangent. If she does get demoted, she becomes one of the best +10 unit. Her weapon becomes really good in arena because you can support whatever arena bonus you have. Maybe you support them to the max for the max +2 in all stat. Doesn't really matter. You just need C rank. And then suddenly, you get 2 extra charge for that character. So it helps them get started, and on top of that you get the bonus stats, so it's actually pretty helpful then. However, if you're talking about how much it helps her, unless you run Special Spiral, which requires killing your dad, kind of funny thing, unless you kill Lewin, of course, it's kind of just irrelevant. It's just like, oh great, I have an easier time for the first fight. Except the thing is, Viloria is already really bulky, really speedy, so the only time this is going to help her is if she baits in her first fight a dragon, so you can actually one-shot it, so you don't get to, you know, possibly get hit a second time. It's very situational. It can help, mind you, even against melee, because Bullfighter is a bitch. But it's very iffy, and also, every combo that I mentioned, you know, like Marv buffing his stat by 8 to all stat, that's gone. Like being able to proc Regnal Astra twice, or Blue Flame twice, that's gone. So, what can you do? You can spec once, with a 2 cooldown move, because you don't have slaying weapons. If you had a slaying weapon with this effect right here, you'd literally just power creep Nyla immediately, because that would be fantastic. Not having a color disadvantage to worry about would be extremely helpful. That in the case, which I'm kind of glad. I feel like Nyla deserves, you know, to be better than Viloria in that regard. Still, you're stuck with that weapon. You basically have a glorified Wadao, only working if you don't have someone next to you when starting the turn, unless they're beast or dragons. Yeah. Roquette is also not really helpful. Close Def would be fantastic to have in the pool. Which, by the way, since she might get demoted, might as well point this out. Close Def is the 5-star luck skill. Ward Beast is would be available at 4. Which is not that surprising considering Minerva also had a Ward Beast at, Ward Flyer at 4-star at launch. Yes, I know she's a 5-star exclusive, but you can actually just manually downsize a unit to 4-star to see what they have available at 3, 4, and 5. And that's what I asked someone to do for me. So I actually know what she had available at 4. Life and Death was locked to 5. This was irrelevant for my video when it came down to my ideal demotion pool, which is completely outdated at this point. Anyway, so she's a pretty good unit, and her competition is, as I said, non-existent. She literally has 3 attack, 2 speed, 3 def against Grima, and the only thing Grima's got is really 2 res. And you can't even use the Dragonflower argument here because she's a flyer, so she doesn't get to get the +10 from that. If that was the case, that would even things up a little, but even then, not quite. She would still be absolutely wrecked. Granted, Grima hits magic, and also Grima is able to run Dark Breath with Wind Sweep, something that Viloria can't do. Grima is a better support unit as a result, and a legendary unit, which means better scoring, yada yada, but if it comes down to battle, while Viloria can be awkward, she can definitely work. Here's a few examples. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious. Most of what I'm showing here are the same kind of set you're going to be seeing on my own Ira, because I mean, it's literally a colorless Ira. What the fuck do you want me to tell you? Except she struggles with special, so she kind of needs special spiral. Wrath can also work if you go for a 3 cooldown move, because then you end up at 2 cool. Well, wait, no. Actually, Dragon Fang is ideal. But if you use Wrath, yes. Actually, if you use Wrath, you go down from 3 to 2, which means you hit, get hit, and then you proc. And you get the extra 10 damage from Wrath. It's less consistent than Ira, but it's an option. Moonbow can also work, but if you use Moonbow with Wrath, do understand that you might have to run away for 2 turns instead of just being like waiting and boom, insta charge like Ira, or to some extent Owain. Actually, not Owain, just Ira can. So yeah, double brazen is something that Ira runs, and if you're somewhat familiar with the channel, you know I can literally just destroy some units I should not be able to even match in battle. Like killing Brave Hector on a death tile with Ira, I've done this. 3 times 2 becoming suddenly 32 times 2. You get the idea. So, yeah, it can work. It can work really well considering she hit 76 attack. Though, if you feel like the attack is enough as is, you can just get rid of Special Spiral and run Desperation. This is also a more budget option. I know those are plus 10, but everything I'm showcasing here, unless I say otherwise, it should be working decently also at unmerged levels. Soul is also a good choice if you're going to go for this encounter, because with Special Spiral, you're going to be able to get it down to 1 cooldown. So on enemy face you get hit, you proc it immediately. You're looking upward to 64 attack, or if you're transformed 66 attack. This is something worth mentioning, but none of those screenshots have the +2 attack of transformation. Keep that in mind, it's kind of important. The point is 66 attack with Soul. You hit something with like 40, for example, 40 defense, you heal yourself for 13. You can do that multiple times. Be aware though, Bullfighter is very dangerous for this. That's kind of a problem. She doesn't have enough firepower when it comes down to just straight up poof, dead. Unless she runs Special Spiral with Bonfire, and then it's kind of iffy. She needs to be in Brazen range, and if she doesn't one-shot, then you're in trouble, basically. So, yeah. That's why I say she's a bit shaky, but she works. Like, her stat line is fucking foolproof. You've seen Ira in action. Ira is like the only unit in the first year outside of Zelgus that was S+ then that is still S+ now. Especially for a non-armored unit, and that's insane. So, yeah. Moving on to Selkie, and before we even try to go to comparison, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no comparison. This stat line is rather unique. The closest match would be Mafilda, who doesn't have the speed stat to back it up, and doesn't have a weapon that just basically consistently just feeds 5 to all stat for free. Selkie is a bit of a sleeper hit, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Our weapon is extremely powerful, though understand something before we even, get to the builds. Our weapon also has the at start of combat clause. Now, at start of combat, if you've been watching my Refined Theory Crafting, you know what it means, but I'm going to reiterate in case someone is just stumbling upon this video. At start of combat is a clause used for basically using your stat before combat starts, which means anything that has a during combat effect is ignored. So, for example, if you're using Death Blow, or actually no, in this case it's Res, so Mirror Stance, Mirror Strike, Attack Res Solo, Attack Res Bond, it is not taken in consideration. So, it's basically what your res stat looks like on the screen, and that's it. Drive spurs, they don't affect it at all. They don't affect the match at all. So, essentially, if you're looking at Selkie here, and she has her weapon, Fury, and res tactic, she hits 47 res. This is the biggest number you can hit, unless you run Fury 4. And that's basically all you can do to improve it. Nothing else will really help. So, if you're on lower merge, you'll want Fury. There's just no way about it. If you're on higher merges, there's an alternative. But I will say when it comes down to Selkie, if you plan on using one, or pulling for one, the biggest thing I have to say when it comes down to Selkie is that you want to have 2 copies. You want to have that merge. Because the thing is with Selkie, every stat is important. You do not dump that def stat. That res stat is important for the weapon. If you dump the def stat, you're literally fucking yourself over, and you're going to get one-shotted for it in a lot of ways. Your speed is probably the most the stat that you can give away the most. HP, again, that's a no-brainer. You kind of need it to live. And your attack stat, well, I mean, do you really want to go for the super fucking Bane? Also, another problem, if you want to actually use Selkie in Arena, optimally you need HP+. She has 156 BST, and the only super boon is, well, HP. This is not important for a unmerged Selkie, but for a merged Selkie, which get rid of the Bane, which means all you get is the BST from the boon. 156 plus 4 equals 160. Every 5 BST cuts is when you have an extra point. Well, you score 2 points extra for the unit in question. So, if you don't use HP+, you actually lose points. That's great. Great mechanic. Isn't that fun? And she's the one that suffers the most from this. Kaden also suffers from it, but at least the 2 boons you can get are actually acceptable. It's not HP by any stretch. Now, Speed Minus is one of your best Bane, because frankly, if you have 35 speed but your weapon gives you back 5 speed, then you run Fury, you're already at 43 speed unbuffed. It's unnecessary to have that much speed. Frankly, if I designed Selkie, I would have just moved 3 speed into defense. And she would have been actually a whole lot better. In battle, she would definitely just shit all over Kaden. So, yeah. Now, what else? Sabotage attack is pretty decent. It's kind of just a worse, I want to say, like a worse attack feint, since it requires a res check. But, I mean, other than that, it's pretty good. And also, yes, I forgot to mention about foxes. When they're transformed, that's basically an extra 6 attack for them, because they get rid of 4 attack on the enemy and 4 defense. So if they're initiating, and you use them mostly as initiators, basically add 4 def, 4 res, and 6 attack. Yeah, that's actually a really good effect. It's basically sturdy impact, but like less attack and defense, of course. And it's just a free effect. What can I say? Attack speed bond is fucking retarded on her, by the way. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. I don't understand why they gave her a bond skill, let alone attack speed bond. That just feels so stupid. She doesn't need all that speed. Like, looking like it, if you have Fury, and then you're like, even res Wade for whatever reason, and you fight something with, 31 res. 31! Okay? You're sitting at 51 speed. Without a seal slot in mind. or buffs. This is how overkill it is. Epic skill, bro, but fucking useless. It's the same thing as fucking Adrift Corin, how attack speed bond literally does nothing for her. It actually works against her, if anything, because it kills your A slot for 5 attack. Great. As for builds, I only have one. Now, like I said, when it comes down to Selkie, if you're not on high merges, Fury is the way to go, so you can have a bit more res. Other than this, stacking Brazens is not a bad idea, because look at this, you have 29 death and 39 health. Okay, that's a bit shaky, until you realize you have 48 res. 32 res or lower characters gives you the full benefit of her Fang, which means 37 defense and 56 res. If you're in Brazen range, well, that's 51 defense. 51! With 56 res. And on top of this, you have 50 speed without even being buffed. This is what I mean by speed is so overkill on this girl. And then on top of this, when it comes down to your attack, you're sitting at 78 attack. Oh, her attack is so low at 29, it's unfixable, wow! Like, I've heard that argument so many times. It's... Look, 78 attack. That's almost 3 times the base attack without the weapon. Oh, and keep in mind, she's not transformed in this. So she has 80 attack, and if she's initiating, like I said earlier, that's basically 84 attack. So, yeah. Having Fury instead of 2 Brazen Attack Death, like Fury Brazen Attack Death, will hurt your damage output a bit, but it's not that bad. It's just that you have 3 point going in speed that you don't really care about, but it's just, you don't have any other option. You need to raise your res to really abuse your weapon, because you don't have enough res then. So you kind of have to give Fury, because what other choice are you going to run? HP res 2? Like, no. And obviously Desperation and Attack Smoke. At this point, Death Smoke is actually not that bad an idea, but that's only if you're really, really invested in her already. So, yeah. Frankly, though, the Beast units are frankly cheap to build. Outside of Keaton. Keaton is the main one. And Viloria with, obviously, Special Spiral. Because those are infantry. Infantry units requires a bit more care than, well, cavalry units. Just try to think of the most premium cavalry build you can make. Like, it's like DB4 or DC. That's the most premium shit you can run. It's not great. I can tell you that much. So, yeah. Just know that while she can run Iceberg with this set, she can also run Gale Force, but at this point, you might even want to get rid of Brazen Attack Death or Brazen Death Res, just because you have so much, you end up having too much attack. And that backfires, because when you go to try to kill the thing, and instead of dying, it just stands there and is like, well, alright, I just got one shot, so you got two charges instead of 5. So, no Gale Force, no nothing. That kinda sucked, so, yeah. Selkie is also the only unit of the banner that has 5 skills, so not being demoted, knowing how. So, alright, let's move on to Kaden. Now we're getting to the good stuff, which is kind of ironic. I think this is the first banner that both women of the banner are actually the worst characters of the banner compared to the dads. And I'm not saying that, like, as a fighter, Selkie is league above Kaden. But Kaden has this weird thing called utility. Utility that is beyond broken. So, what does he do? Well, there's quite a few combo you can run with this, but let's start with just explaining what it does. Which, by the way, Ear's High is pulling a blunder. I did manage to pull Kaden with some of my free tickets, but the point is, in the notifications, they're like, ooh, Kitsune grants bonus to attack speed, def, res during combat, which is equal to current bonus on each of unit's stat, which is legendary Marth's Falchion effect, not what he actually has. As you can see with the second screenshot, if you read at the start, they basically forgot to add the grant allies within 2 spaces clause. Fucking yay. Between this and Intern Coon fucking it up by actually showcasing the fact that we're actually getting Legendary Roy this month, wow. That's a massive 10 out of 10. I just hope he's an infantry red unit, because I'm pulling red for red. But we'll see. So, yeah. Moving on. Again, Goat Beast is at 4-star. Speed Wrestling is behind 5-star. I don't understand why Speed Wrestling is honestly the worst of the bunch. If we're talking fodder-wise, Kaden is the absolute worst of this banner. Frankly, if they demote Kaden and Viloria, I would be ecstatic, but that's not happening, let's be honest. So what his weapon does. Grant allies within 2 space bonus to attack speed, def, res during combat equal to current bonus on each of unit's stat. Calculate each stat bonus independently at start of turn, and at start of turn if unit is adjacent, blah blah blah, beast unit, and the usual fuck shit. Alright, so why do I say he became the best bonus, the best buff unit? Well, that's quite simple. Basically, every buff he has, visible buffs, so like, oh, I don't know, attack tactic, and then he gets Grey Waved by Legendary Azura, so he has 6 all around. You're basically looking at a multi-drive unit without even using a C or seal slot. He basically is running a drive attack, speed, def, res, 5. Buffing everyone around him in 2 space for 6 to all stats. Yeah, it's as broken as it sounds. So yeah, that's really good, but on top of it, he also has a really good stat line. And again, just like Selkie has a stat line that's a bit, what's the word? Deceptive. Because this just looks like a slightly worse Tana. And yeah, kind of, but the fact that his weapon breaks follow-up gives basically to him 4 def, 4 res, and 4 attack. On the initiative with 3 movement while buffing everyone around him. Yeah, but do you want to hear what makes him the most broken support unit? Legendary Marfin and Base Erica are some of his best teammates. Why? Let's put it this way. If you run Attack Def Link on Erica, okay, and then you swap or pivot, I don't know why you would run pivot on him, but say swap, okay? So you just swap with Erica, so then you get 6 to all stat and she gets 6 to all stat. Okay. Erica's weapon procs, so she copies the buffs that Kaden has and adds them to her own as drives. So that's 6 to all stat again. Then Kaden uses his weapon to buff all of Erica's stats by 6, considering he's buffed by 6 to all stats. So Erica suddenly gets a surge of 18 to every fucking stats. Yeah. You're basically looking to upward to like 68 attack without an A or seal slot in mind. You can actually run Brazens with her really consistently, and then you're basically looking at, oh, I don't know, 82 attack? With an Erica? Huh? But yeah, it's real. This is actually a thing. Legendary Morph does the same, except instead of copying Kaden's buff, he copies his own buff. So basically the same thing in the end. He gets 18 to all stats. And he's an even better unit than Erica, so... yeah, okay, yeah. Not to mention, if Marv gets in a fight and procs Fire Emblem, Kaden gets the buff, and then Kaden provides the buff to Marv, so... again, they are some of the best combos you can make, so... yeah. He also has a Super Boon in Def and Res, which are required for the 160 BST bin after the first merge, so it's still worth mentioning. So let's move to comparison. There's really not much you can really compare here. He's basically Morph but better, because his bulk is a bit more spread out. Because if you just go with like a lot of defense, which by the way, his weapon gives him Def +3, so even the fact that you can refine weapon with Grew Morph is not that big of a deal. Outside of HP, which, I mean, is fair, but at the end of the day, he can also deal with mages and also provide support, so yeah. Not to mention, if he's initiating, that's 4 attack for the 4 res. I know I'm repeating myself a lot here, but that's just kind of what it is. So, yeah, he basically has 32 def and 29 res when initiating, which is a massive 9 point of res above Marth, 2 points of defense above Marth, same speed, 1 more attack, and at the cost of like 2 HP. Though again, you can refine weapons to kind of fix a few error, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're still going to be worse than Kaden, no matter what you do. Not to mention, he has a 16 might weapon when transformed, so that's another problem. If only Grumorph had a pref. And then you have Titania. Now, the main reason I actually compare Titania to Kaden is because they're both support units. To put it simply, Kaden and Titania buff different stuff. Kaden will be more of an arena buffer because he can just stay out of range of Panic Ploy more consistently, while providing support safely as drives, which is something that, you know, the bonus unit will just not give a shit about. Or rather, not get hurt by, because he can't get Panic Ployed. It's not something that can really be used against him. So, again, really good. However, I guess Kaden's main problem is if he's basically there to buff a Blade Tome, he's not going to do a good job. Odin and Titania, also Seth, will all do a better job than he does at that, so it's worth mentioning. So Titania did not exactly lose her spot as a buffer, it's just now her spot as a buffer is more focused. Seth just gained a lot more utility, even more so than before, because, I mean, if you run Rally Attack up, if you run Speed Tactic as the weapon, if you run Def Tactic and Rest Tactic as your C and Seal slot, that's 6 all around, so, you know, you can make a lot of shenanigans happen with this. So, yeah. Not much else to say. Kaden is basically a beast, no pun intended, when it comes down to buffing. Completely supersede base Marth on that regard. It's kind of ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Though it does require him being buffed, while Marth can actually support and give more buffs straight up, without him receiving said buffs. So, it's a bit of a give and take. But frankly, I do consider Kaden just better than Marth. It's not difficult to get buffs going. And if you just run his B skill, and then you have attack tactic in your C slot, and then def tactic as your C slot on literally anyone, you can just buff him by 6 in every stat, and by 6 in every stat to the bonus unit. That's massive, because that's 12 to all stats, so... yeah. He kind of just breaks the game in a way. So what about builds? Well, like I said, the stat line is very surprising. Just don't do the mistake of going speed plus. That's honestly, outside of HP, the worst boon you can go with. Which is all the more reason why I was kind of sad to see Metakite going for speed, but oh well. It was already a shame that she just got wrecked so hard by the banner also. I was ashamed, but oh well. This set is basically meant, the set to the left, I guess, is a set mostly based on Gale Force. B skill is really open. You can run Mystic Boost, Guard, a lot of skill works. The reason why I say Mystic Boost is because he already has a lot of bulk. You can actually abuse that bulk that way a bit better, which is fantastic. Because hey, if you take like 7 damage in the fight and heal back 6, you only took 1 damage in that fight, so you can keep going for multiple fights in a row. And with Attack Smoke, I mean, you can go for 2 characters in a row and still have an enemy phase going. The second set is more, you know, not really killing oriented, but more so buffing oriented. Obviously, I used Own and Fortified Beasts / Calves, though it's mostly Beast, let's be honest. So, yeah. Be aware that if not, you can still use his B skill, and that gives you the speed and res. Attack Def is easy as shit to get. So, yeah. Not much else to say. The second set uses Res Plus just so he has a bit more bulk in general. Double Close Def is really good for him, because that gives him 50 Def and 51 Res against melee unit, which is basically 90% of what you find in Arena if you're scoring decently high. So, yeah. Now let's move to the caviar of the actual banner. It's funny, because I've heard some people think that he's actually underwhelming. I have no idea what type of drug you are using. I fucking want some. Because this dude is borderline game breaking. I don't know, like, I still can't work on the tier list, which, by the way, the tier list website is fixed now, thank God. But it still is not updated. I guess I'll be waiting eternally in purgatory for it to be updated, for me to actually update my tier list, but you can be almost certain that Keaton will be S+. He is that good. It's kind of funny, though, because I kind of just predicted his stat line. When we had the banner, and actually I was working, I think, on a weapon refined theory crafting at the time, and the banner came out, and I was like, oh, hey, I guess I'll review it. Or, no. I was actually watching The King's Avatar, which, by the way, if you haven't watched it, watch this goddamn show. It's literally video game anime done right. It's actually impressive how good this anime is. I have watched it for a 5th time today. I think that gives you enough context. I am extremely picky with what I watch, so yeah. But after that, the banner was out. I ended up, I was doing a watch along on my Discord of the anime in question, and then the banner was out. So I ended up just going on Nintendo Mobile and actually just watching the banner. And my first reaction was like, Keaton looks good as fuck. I'm expecting him to have the Inata stat line, but since he's gonna have more BST, the BST is going to be going into attack and defense. Well, look around, what did we get? Literally that. So, yeah. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Keaton is insane. So you're basically having an armored level, an armored unit level of attack, actually tied for highest amount of attack, with like in the top 5 amount of defense of this game. Super boon in both, on top of it, which is fucking ridiculous, and a broken ass weapon. Speed -5, unit attack twice, even initiated combat unit attacks twice. At start of turn if unit blah 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 beast stuff, and it has a Wadao effect. That's broken. That's a broken. So if it wasn't for his stat line being so min-maxed, yeah, I could actually agree. Okay, Keaton doesn't look that good. But we literally have gotten about the best stat line he could have gotten with this type of weapon. He can be so broken. And, like, I understand people that actually wrote him off quickly, because World of Thracia Reinhardt was, well, let's be honest. Let me skip this, actually, because I know it's actually copyright. Anyway. Because he's basically like Reinhardt, yeah? He works the same way for the most part. He's just a better version. So you're like, well, alright, he's just gonna die the same way as Reinhardt. You couldn't be further from truth. The thing is, I will agree that Reinhardt himself was a flop. But that's not because the unit itself was bad. It's because it was a cavalry unit. This is an infantry unit. You have access to Wrath, you have access to Special Spiral, you have access to Breath skills. You have access to all the broken shit in the fucking world. With a broken ass stat line on top of a fucking Brave Dao weapon. How in God's name do you even think this is bad? Attack plus transformed, you have 56 attack. Without an A skill, without a seal skill, without buffs. You have 62 attack with attack tactic. Multi-phase brave weapon, 62 attack. What the fuck? This is beyond broken. So, yeah, speaking of comparison, 5 more health, 6 more attack with a super boon, so upward to 7 different attack. 1 more speed, don't matter. 7 more defense, and then the one thing that Reinhardt is actually beating him in, res. Which don't matter because if you get hit, you typically die unless you basically kill with your 2 hits and they don't do consecutive damage. Reinhardt. So, yeah. The one thing Reinhardt has is the 3 movement. Movement is cool and all, but it doesn't really equate to much if you actually can just be face tanked at basically easy amounts. The thing is, Reinhardt's attack is kind of piss poor, so Heavy Blade Moonbow is actually kind of a struggle to work with. Even with DB4, it's a struggle all the time, so it's a very bad comparison to make. If you write off Keaton because Reinhardt was underwhelming, you couldn't be more wrong, honestly. So let's talk builds. I have 3. Yeah. This is what we're working with. So the first one... Oh, and by the way, before someone point this out, yes, Unit Builder actually gives him a 14 might weapon instead of a 9 might weapon. I've manually changed the numbers so it actually is a 9 might weapon. So before someone point this out and think the numbers are higher than what they should be, they're not. This is actually what they are. So How about that 73 attack with Fierce Breath? You proc Vantage, the first hit get Glimmer ready, the second one procs Glimmer. With 73 attack. Not to mention, this guy is sitting at 53 defense. Oh, actually, that's not even his attack, because he's not transformed. Because once he's transformed, that's 75 attack. Ah, of course. To put it in perspective, Zelgus at plus 10 has 42 defense, and with Death Tactics has 48. You are tearing him apart, doing 27 times 2. He dies without your special, dude. And then the second the special is there, you go from 27-27 to 27-50. 50! It's not even close. Even with drives, he just gets instant killed. So unless he procs Black Luna on the first hit, Keaton just kills him all the time. It's this dumb. It's this fucking dumb. It's at the point where you just throw him at the enemy, the first thing gets him in vantage range, Death Smoke procs, and then whatever comes to you after dies. Unless it's blue, and even if it's blue, it's actually not sure. Because even if it's blue, you still have 60 attack after the weapon triangle disadvantage. Which, by the way, if you feel uncomfortable with Glimmer as a result, run Moonbow. It's gonna work just as well. Like, for example, let's use a 40 defense blue unit. You still do 20 times 2. And your second hit gives an extra 10 damage because Glimmer, and then an extra 10 damage because of his weapon. That's 60 damage. The blue's dead. With 40 death. It's that dumb. The DC set is more so if you want to also deal with mages. This is mostly outside of arena, which makes sense. Death Smoke just to make it more consistent on the KO, of course, and Death Smoke will be available at 4-star through Pane, so yeah, that's actually pretty good. Now, if you're going to use Attack Death Bond, you want Swap, and you want a dragon on your party so you can stay transformed while having a buddy next to him. However, if you're going to go for the distinct counter set, then shove is better, because then he can work in every team comp. You can just shove whatever guy is next to him for just, you know, not being de-transformed. He loses nothing doing this. As a matter of fact, it just makes Heavy Blade more consistent. So, yeah. Not much else to say here. He's just a absolute monster. This is the second set. If you think that you're actually going to struggle with dealing damage, or you want him to be a better tank, this is a good example. You're sitting at 61 defense, and yeah, you still have 60 attack. Without attack plus, without Fierce Breath, you still have 60 attack. Or actually 65 attack because of the bond skill. The way this works is quite simple. You get hit, that's 2 charge. You hit back, that's 2 charge. You hit back again because of your weapon, you proc Ignis. Or as I like to call it, Bigness. Thank you, Evenness. So you're sitting at 61 attack, or 61 def, so you get an extra 48 damage, and it gets worse because Wrath and Wolfskin Fang give an extra 10 through damage on top of this, so you're actually getting 68 damage from that one special. Keep in mind, 60 attack. This is overkill. This is honestly overkill. But it's worth mentioning because if you're dealing with something like a blue, this could be a good idea to run with. Do keep in mind, Keaton's biggest mistake with this set, and also with the former one, are going to be unit running Special Fighter, or unit running Steady Stance, unless their name is Surtur, of course, because he's sitting at 90 attack. because of weapon triangle advantage. Which, I mean, who cares? And frankly, steady stance doesn't matter anyway, since it's enemy phase, and this is more a enemy phase oriented character. Though you can still use him in player phase. I mean, with this set as a player phase unit, that's still 64 attack. That's still a lot. 76 attack as a result. Even if Surtur hits 50 def, you still do 50 damage. And if you just wait on the enemy phase, oop, that's a problem. Oops. Even if you actually just face tank him on enemy phase, well, let's just put it this way. He's gonna struggle doing any damage, at least for this set. The other one will be a bit less consistent, but this set... Oh no, he took away 4 defense from Surtur's menace, and he has now 60-something attack. Oh no, 65 attack minus 13 because of combat triangle, that's 52. Oh, that's actually 6 damage away from even doing any kind of damage. He literally just ting-tings on you and die like a bitch. I mean, he's a red, that's kind of to be expected, but still. Honestly, this unit is rather busted. Works in most team comp, and honestly, even if you go for an enemy phase set, you still have a player phase, just because of the sheer stupidity when it comes down to the amount of damage that this character can do. So, yeah. I think this concludes my review, and this is my first review that almost hit the 1 hour mark. Holy fuck. It was actually a fun banner to work on outside of Kaden and Selkie, because both of them are cavalry units. They don't get access to jack shit, so it's kind of difficult to work with. But yeah, other than this, I suppose that's all. So I'm gonna see you all in the comment, and I might work on the GHB Tempestral unit tier list in time. I don't know. This was already a pretty lengthy video, so we'll see.